The My Hero Project is a non-profit organization that uses media and technology to celebrate the best of humanity and empower people of all ages to realize their potential to affect positive change in the world. Since 1995, My Hero has provided access to tools, media technology, and a platform for self-expression to enable people to discover, create, and share uplifting media with a global learning community. Through our award-winning website, workshops, and film festivals, My Hero helps people recognize the heroes who inspire them, and in turn, to inspire others. My Hero's International Film Festival and local Hero Fests honor individuals affecting positive change on both local and global levels, and showcase the work of talented artists and filmmakers who shed light on the greatest challenges and most courageous efforts of our time. The following are highlights from the My Hero International Film Festival.
Last night I had the strangest dream.
Former Marine Sergeant Ron Kovic served 2 tours of duty in the Vietnam War before being wounded and paralyzed in combat. Since then, he's become an accomplished author, painter, and activist who has worked for world peace for over 40 years. His autobiography, Born on the 4th of July, became an Academy Award-winning feature film, directed by Oliver Stone, starring Tom Cruise.
Swords and uniforms, they scattered on the ground. Let everyone hear this. Last night, I had the strangest dream I'd ever dreamed before. I dreamed the world had all agreed to put an end to war. Thank you very much. God bless you all. Thank you, Fernando.
Ron Kovic presents an award to the filmmaker and hero who most effectively addresses the issue of peace each year at the International Film Festival.
In 1995, a violent crime would forever change the lives of 2 families and lead to an unbelievable outcome initiated by the victim's father, Azim Khamisa.
I worked as an international investment banker, so I traveled the world and had a very full life. My son grew up in Seattle with his mom, and then after he finished high school, he came to San Diego to study. He was a student in San Diego State University, which was nice because he was closer to me. He wanted to become a journalist.
But on January 21st, 1995, the father and son's peaceful lives would be irreparably torn apart. While Azim was returning from a business trip in Mexico, Tariq was working a part-time job delivering pizzas.
It was the last delivery of the evening, and as he was about to leave, he was accosted by 4 youth gang members, and the 14-year-old fired 1 round. And Tariq died a couple of minutes later, drowning in his own blood.
Ples Felix, whose grandson, 14-year-old Tony Hicks, was arrested for the murder, was also facing the terrible news.
That feeling of foreboding came on me. And I knew that life would change forever.
Tony confessed to the murder, waiving his right to a trial, and received a sentence of 25 years to life in prison.
Who is the enemy here? Is it the 14-year-old that killed my son, or is it the societal forces that forced a young African-American boy to join a gang at the age of 11, and then to prove himself to the gang, he shot and killed my son?
With forgiveness in his heart, Azim decided to pick up the pieces and take a remarkable step. 9 months after Tariq's death, Azim started an organization to work against youth violence in at-risk communities called the Tariq Khamisa Foundation.
I want to thank you for inviting Tariq Khamisa Foundation to bring our Violence Impact Forum, and especially today, because today is exactly the 16th anniversary of this tragedy.
With him on stage is Ples Felix, whom Azim reached out to shortly after the murder and asked to join him in his anti-violence work.
We needed to share the story of how Tariq and Tony's paths crossed and how it resulted in the death of one person and the life of another person's changing instantly and forever.
And I said to him, you know, I cannot do anything to bring my son back from the dead. He's gone. And you can't do anything to get your grandson out of prison. And I've started this foundation with the mission of stopping kids from killing kids. I can't do this by myself. The real reason I'm here is ask for your help.
Tony was like you all. But Tony also was a very angry person. One thing about angry people are not thinking people.
We've reached over 8 million kids. And through our story, we are teaching the principles of nonviolence, of compassion, of empathy, of forgiveness, of peacemaking. Because violence is a learned behavior. No kid was born violent. If you accept that as a truism, then nonviolence can also be a learned behavior.
In the 15 years of Azim's work with the Foundation, he has traveled the world and earned recognition from global luminaries like the Dalai Lama, but his focus has never wavered.
The magic about it is that through forgiveness, I've been able to heal.
Azim, would you please stand up? Is Azim in the audience? Yeah. Azim, please. Please. It's such an honor to be with you, and it was such a pleasure. Yes, please stand up for nonviolence, for peace, for love, for caring, for compassion, for tolerance. This man stands for what we need in our country and in our world right now.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Ron. I am really honored by your testimony, by honoring me. And this is a very meaningful acknowledgement. I really want to compliment the producers, the working group, Edith, I know she's here, and my hero, because this particular video takes the cake. They've done an amazing job, so please let's acknowledge them. And I think I made a good choice 16 years ago. I decided to forgive instead of revenge. And it was the right choice. I could have gone the other way. What good would that have done? And there's a famous Gandhi quote, an eye for an eye, and soon the whole world is blind. The young man who murdered my son, I met him 5 years later. He was 19 years old. And I'm looking in his eyes to see if I could find a murderer. And I didn't. Sure, he had murdered my only son. That did not make him inhuman. So at that particular point, I told him, Tony, I want you to know that I forgive you. I have forgiven you. And but I also want you to know that you have a job waiting for you at the Tariq Khamisa Foundation. So when you come out, you can join your grandfather and me. After I gave him some love and some hope, he shifted. By the time he was 22, he aced his GED at the 94.5 percentile, self-taught himself. He's 31 years old now. He's 2/3 of his way getting his first degree in child psychology. He reads 5 books a month and has recently started to write poetry. And I can't wait to get him out. I know we have saved him, but think about how many he will save when he's on stage with his grandfather and me. And that, my brothers and sisters, is the power of forgiveness.
Years ago, 20 years ago, there was a rumor of a famine in Somalia. And a young man, Aidan Hartley, who was a young Reuters correspondent, he was 24 years old, called up my son and said, Dan, you know, there may be a famine, and if we get up there, we might be able to tell the story, and maybe somebody would do something about it. So Dan and Aidan got in a car and drove all the way to Somalia, and along the way, they saw horrible traces of famine, of people dying, children, women, And Dan took pictures. Those pictures were among the first to alert the world of a terrible famine. And they helped bring about something called Operation Restore Hope, which brought aid and saved, lots and lots of people. And Dan went back over and over again to tell this story. Tragically, Dan and 3 other journalists were killed while telling the story. They were stoned and beaten to death by a mob. Our response was slow, unforgiveness. We got there. But we created a foundation as well. And our foundation was dedicated to the concept of the ability to take power.
Dan's death at the age of 22 devastated his family. But in the years since, they have tried to move beyond the sadness by taking comfort in the fullness of his life, in the way his photography and his journals have become a source of inspiration.
To kids in the world, I think he would have said, "You may only dance a short time." His dance has been very short indeed, but he would have said, "You choose your dance. You choose the music for your dance. You dance proudly, you dance loudly, you dance with incredible spirit and creativity and life and joy, and especially you go out and dance with love."
There was this multi-billion-dollar gas corporation, the richest mining corporation in the world, and their proposal was to bring this LNG facility, which is liquefied natural gas facility, 14 miles off the coast of Oxnard. They proposed it to a richer community, Camarillo and Ventura, and they say no. So they added 10 more miles to the project so that it would go around the richer communities and just impact Oxnard. Oxnard is an agricultural city, and the majority of the people are monolingual Spanish speaking. This community is very vulnerable because they are working in the fields. That means that what they're doing is just working enough so that they could help survive their families. This corporation knew that these people were not going to take the day off to go and protest. They knew that they were not educated, most of them. They knew that it was an easy target. We didn't know how much we could do, The idea was to delay the project. And so first we started giving talks. We would go to neighborhoods and we'd tell them, could you please gather your neighbors? We would pass flyers, we would have education meetings. When I educated myself and realized, why is it happening in my community? Why cannot we deserve having a voice and an opinion about what happens behind our yards? People tell you, you can't do it. You're poor, you're too short, you're too this and you're too that. And so one of the things that I was learning was to believe in myself, to learn that I could do something, that I had a voice. We needed to work together because we knew that this corporation had a lot of money, that they could actually buy a lot of voices. And we knew that our best bet was to have united the whole community, from the poorest to the richest, from all ages and languages or ethnicities. The corporation had an office in downtown Oxnard, and so we would go and protest outside the building. One of the most important things is that the protest was not just people yelling for no reason. They knew what was the final result that they wanted, and the final result was to say to this corporation to don't come and experiment on us. Don't put our families, our lives on lower than the money. That day, they asked me to represent the youth and to give my testimony. It was this small little Mexican girl, barely speaking English. I could barely put a sentence together. I was in front of this microphone and I just started speaking from my heart. I didn't have any title, any statistics or anything. And after I spoke, it was The whole room went like so wild. It was incredible. Now my voice was heard. It was worth it, all the effort.
I wanted to be the voice for those who thought they did not have one. I wanted to be the hope for those who believed that there was no way we could have stopped BHP Billington. I wanted to be the inspiration for those who believe that a person can make a difference.
When we think of powerful people that step on top of small people, you know? But in reality, in Spanish, poder, when you translate it, poder, the actual meaning is la habilidad de actuar, the ability to act. And when you think, oh, then I have the power. I have the power, tengo el poder de actuar. I have the power to act.
I want to thank the Eldon family for doing this. And I also want to thank my hero, my mother. She's back, mi mamá. This is a very special moment for me because this is the first time that she gets to see a video and that she gets to accompany me to a ceremony. And I really thank her. Mamá, te quiero mucho. She doesn't understand what I'm saying because she doesn't speak English. But she knows she's my hero. Eres mi héroe, madre. I don't have much to say, but I want you to know that these are our heroes. Please give a voice to the voiceless. Find your voice if you haven't found it. And be the one that gives hope for those that have lost it. I will finish with the words of my role model, Cesar Chavez. Once a social change begins, it cannot be reversed. You cannot uneducate the person who has learned to read. You cannot humiliate the person who feels pride. And you cannot oppress the people who are not afraid anymore. We are the future, and the future is ours. Thank you once again, and si se puede.
Teacher and filmmaker Cheikh Darou Seck is a My Hero Media Arts educator from Dakar, Senegal.
My name is Cheikh Darou Seck, and I'm an English teacher from Senegal, West Africa. And in 2004, I went to this IAN conference, the International Educators and Resource Network, that was in Slovakia that year. And that's where I met Ginny Myers and the My Hero project for the first time. I saw Ginny sitting in the lobby, with her laptop. And then she showed me the website and everything. I think I immediately fell in love with the project. And afterwards, in the interview that followed, I remember promising that I and my students, we were gonna participate in the project. I think that everything started in that very conference when I saw the kids, going around interviewing people. And right at the end of the conference, they not only shot a movie, edited it, but they showed it. Then I remember thinking that if these kids can do it, then why not my kids? That meeting changed my life. It's just like something wonderful, a shift happened in my life. And from a simple mere educator, and here I am making movies today. When I get that first camera, I received an email asking me whether I wanted to take part in the film festival. Then I said yes, I would be very happy. I wanted just to have the movie about one Senegalese hero. And then one day I went to a workshop. Then I went there and I found one of these birds made by the bird maker sitting right on the table of the guy. And I wanted to know where the bird came from and who had made it. Then he told me that it was made by an artist next door. People living by the market of Unit 16 in the suburb of Dakar are used to seeing this artist pick up objects from the street. Extremely gifted, Jeju's creativity shows in his ability to turn any kind of imaginable materials into wonderful birds that he captures in various positions.
Voilà. Le portable est une création des scientifiques et une fois qu'il se gâte, on le jette. Il devient un déchet, une ordure. Et moi, je récupère donc ce déchet industriel pour en faire une œuvre d'art.
In Jeju's artistic vision, birds are creatures that play an active role in human affairs.
Le matin, de très bonne heure, l'oiseau se réveille et de par son cri, son chant, il fait part à l'humanité la victoire de la lumière sur les ténèbres. Et il fait part au monde donc la venue du jour. C'est pourquoi je dis que l'oiseau, c'est le messager du soleil.
It's beautiful to see what's happening around the world, what my hero is making out there in the world. And it's for me an honor to have captured some of it. And the bird maker is some amazing guy, somebody who's been impacted by birds in such a way that he's able to capture them in various ways in his creation. And to me, that's something really amazing, something wonderful. And it was an honor for me to make a film about him. And great luck, the film won the BAFTA Fest in the 2005 My Hero Film Festival. And here am I today, still making films, being inspired by other heroes around the world.
Slater Jewel Kemker started making films for My Hero when she was 6 years old. Since then, she has won several awards in the My Hero Film Festival and is now making a feature-length documentary about the global crisis brought on by climate change.
I'm 18 years old. If you're like me, the consequences of climate change don't amount to inconvenient weather and spoiled retirement plans. If you're like me, climate change is rising up in the middle of your life, and for the first time in generations, the future that our parents promised us might not be there. Currently, the world's leaders get together once a year to talk about climate change. For 18 years, that's all they've done, talk. Just like Copenhagen in 2009 when my heart was broken. Copenhagen was going to be the one, the conference where the world came together to take a stand on climate change. The world came together all right. But the only stand taken was by young people hoping to make a difference, young people locked out, rounded up, hosed down, and told in no uncertain terms, you have no voice here.
I'm from northern Alberta. I was born in the Peace River region where one of the tar sands regions are. It's hard to do the work sometimes when you look around and you see that the water's being contaminated, people are being affected by the air quality emissions.
The melting of glaciers, which affects the city I live in La Paz, is really a big problem for us. We're not going to have water in 20 years.
What happens if we don't solve this problem? What happens if all of these things do end up happening?
Let's look towards history. Whenever the biggest changes happen, it's been social movement, social mobilization that has brought that change, that has made the top-down world leaders respond and make the change that's needed.
Often it comes down to a system of values, and if people just see money as the goal and growing the economy as the goal, it's super, super hard to challenge them on that. But you can't eat money.
By having personal relationships with someone that seems to be so far away from you, you really develop the sense of empathy, which is something we all believe very crucial in solving a global crisis. Because if you don't know a person and you never know that he's suffering, there's no propelling feelings for you to save him.
I think it's a world where we value people and natural resources more than profits.
We can have a future where we're all a whole lot healthier and happier if we work to tackle climate change. So why wouldn't you try and make those structural changes?
I went to Cancun with no hope and a lot of anger. But I've learned that in order for us to truly combat climate change, for us to truly become the just, sustainable, and caring world we dream of, there's only one road before us. And as corny as it sounds, that road is love.
I'm here today to say to you all, join us. Join us in battling climate change. Care about someone. Care about someone at the other end of the world that you've never met, because if you can do that, you can save the world. Thank you.
Tell the world about your hero. Visit myhero.com. Join our global learning community.